is a groovy party, man. I can dig it.
Solid. Right on.
Hey, man, what's your name? Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, brother, brother.
Good morning and welcome to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. That's 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. Good morning to you, Calvin. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Earl. How are you?
I'm doing fine, man. 3 to 6 inches of snow.
I know. Not looking forward to that.
Man, I bled out my snowblower almost 3 weeks, a month ago. Bled all the gas out. I just assumed it was over. And, you don't want to leave the gas in or the oil, for the entire winter or summer. So I bled it out. I said, it was a nice day outside. I'm not going to need this anymore. It was one of those times. It was 65 degrees. And I was sure.
Yeah.
But it's not just us, man. It's all over the Midwest. So, misery loves company.
So they say.
Yeah, man. I got an awful lot to talk about this morning, as always, in the 9 o'clock hour. We're going to be joined by none other than Omar, Dr. Omar, the pharmacist of Welltopia, and, in the pharmacy, which is a segment that we added several weeks ago. I think it's as important information as you can find anywhere in radio or on radio, anywhere, because it is something that, really impacts and affects us directly, and all of us. And we don't know, the medications we take, we don't know the impact of those meds. If you are one of the lucky and fortunate few who doesn't have to take medications, well, you are definitely in a minority. So it's always great to have, the pharmacist, Dr. Umar, on the air. And he's just a brilliant, brilliant man who, it speaks in a language that we can all understand. I think that's as important as anything. But, I was thinking, Calvin, the other day, it was actually yesterday, man, I'm still not believing that I get a chance to be on the radio, man. After all of this time, that somehow a blue collar guy, right? Hey, man, a guy who used to go into the factory for 34 years and take my time card and strike my time card and put on my coveralls and my safety glasses and my earplugs and, and go to, this massive press, 6,000-ton press, and work with 3 other guys and produce side rails for, trucks and military vehicles and buses and automobiles. And to do that from the age of 18, one job, all the way through 54. I mean, just think, Kevin, that's an amazing thing. In your life, you probably won't see any job, not just you, but people of your generation, where somebody works from 18 to 54, right? One job.
Even my parents, who aren't that much younger than you are, haven't worked really that long in one job.
I know, man. It was an amazing, amazing time. But not just the fact that I was able to do that, man, but the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing, and clearly having not been trained, but clearly something that I believe in. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said, "Man, you were born to do what you are doing right now." And I believe that there are those of us who are born to do things and never get a chance to do them. So I'm so fortunate, and every second of every day that I get an opportunity to come before you is a privilege and an honor. Um, I'd also say, say this. You know, every morning I get up and in preparation for the show, and the night, uh, before I go to bed and thinking about what I'm going to talk about today, I always want to talk about something that's impactful. Today is no different. There is a lot of information about a lot of things that we're going to discover and discuss, and let's have at it right now. Calvin, we've heard constantly from the other side of things that Joe Biden has not been doing enough, to make sure that the oil prices are down. You remember, have you been hearing this? The Democrats and Donald Trump, when he was the president, um, you know, the gas prices were lower than they've ever been. You remember hearing those things?
I certainly remember.
So here's something that people should know. And good morning to everybody who's, in the listening audience. Who do you think has been the number one manufacturer of oil over the last 6 years?
Saudi Arabia.
That would be a great guess.
Is it the United States?
It's the United States. And so you would be in error. The United States has pumped more oil in the last 6 years. The most oil has been pumped in history, in the world. And you keep hearing people say, oh, Joe Biden has prevented the, oil drilling. And, he cut off the pipeline and he did this again. Inaccurate. Take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. U.S. has produced more oil than any country in history for 6 consecutive years. So 4 years under Joe Biden. The guy who they swore was not drilling enough, was the reason that the oil prices shot through the roof. Untrue. If the United States itself has produced more oil than any country in history for 6 consecutive years, how is there blame on Joe Biden and the Democrats for the price of oil being high? Well, he shut down this pipeline. He didn't. It's just not true. According to a new analysis by the Energy Information Administration, the United States has produced the most crude oil globally for 6 years in a row, more than any nation in history during that time. The 4 years of Joe Biden's presidency. Trying to separate truth from fiction is critically important during this election cycle. And so people don't have to be truthful. They can say whatever they want to say. We're going to talk a little bit as we move forward with the show about false claims that are on these internet sites that people are believing. And because they're on an internet site, they somehow think that what people are writing somehow is true. And so when you get your news information from sites like the internet and you can't check to verify any of it, then you can fall for anything. And that's what people have been doing, falling for anything. Now, The crude oil production record in the United States in 2023 is unlikely to be broken in any other country in the near term. That's, last year. Because no other country has reached production capacity of 13 million barrels a day. Saudi Arabia's state-owned Saudi Aramco recently scrapped plans to increase production capacity to 13 million barrels a day by 2027. When we're out pumping Saudi Arabia, which is actually just a country that sits on top of an oil reserve, you better believe we're doing something extraordinary. And yet people still want this country to go into sacred land and pump even more oil. And I noticed, maybe you haven't noticed, but, in the city of Milwaukee, the price for a gallon of regular gas is now $3.39, and it's climbing. And so, and it's climbing at a time when, the elections are going to be here. And they're going to blame the Joe Biden and the United States for not doing enough to keep the oil prices down. Well, if we pump more oil than the other nations, than all the other nations, how is it Joe Biden's fault if the prices of oil continue to rise? For a barrel of oil continue to rise. Sandy will be here again on tomorrow. And I'm going to, have him put it in perspective, because clearly many of the people who continue to blame President Joe Biden for the price of oil climbing really don't have an idea at all about any of it. And I'm not sitting here telling you I do, but we got a person, an economist, Sandy Williams, who knows it like the back of his hand. 844-967-2789 is the number. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show. You can join us at 844-967-2789. On the other side, false claims that you are going to find on the internet that will impact and affect your decisions on the election. All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. Couple more statistics on oil and the United States' role in it and place in it. And these are factual facts, unlike what you are hearing from the other side of things. Last year, the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Russia together produced 32.8 million barrels of oil per day, 40% of global production. Since 1971, the three nations have produced the most crude oil, with the next three biggest producers, Iraq, Canada, and China, pumping out 13.1 million barrels combined, barely more than the United States total of 13 billion barrels. U.S. yearly crude oil production plateaued and began to decline overall for decades, following a peak of 9.6 million barrels in 1970. In 2008, it hit a low of 5 million barrels a day. So the next time you hear somebody fix their mouth to say that Joe Biden and the oil prices have gone up and Joe Biden and the Democrats are the reason you are paying more at the gas pump, you know, you need to hit them in the mouth with the truth. And you know, again, don't take my word for it. You know, you can look and find the information. It is there. But anyway, now I want to get to the lies that people are hearing that help, you know, kind of create the animosity towards migrants and this hatred that Donald Trump and many others in this nation have. And this information, this is from the Associated Press. Now, you might say, well, the Associated Press, they could be lying. Well, you know, I certainly trust what the people in the Associated Press say more than, you know, some Yoko on Facebook or any of those other mediums, you know. But ATF rules not updated to allow migrants to purchase firearms. So there's been this ongoing campaign on the internet that claim an update to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives background check policy allows people in the U.S. illegally to purchase firearms. The assessment, false. No such update has been made. Federal law prohibits people in the country illegally from purchasing or possessing firearms with limited exceptions, an ATF spokesperson told the Associated Press. The ATF does not have the power to change federal law, only implement it. But that doesn't matter, because the accusations from Republicans that President Joe Biden's migrant policies are to blame for the recent killing of a nursing student in Georgia. Social media users are falsely claiming that the ATF is making it easier for people who enter the U.S. illegally to obtain certain lethal weapons. Lies. Flat out lies. You know, but if you don't search for the truth, you know, you are going to get that. And so, you know, it's easy to listen to what somebody said on Facebook or what somebody said on some of these other outlets and look at those things as if they're truth. Many posts included a video of a woman who says that her husband, who owns a gun shop, told her that the ATF has made updates to their background check policy, and effective today, they give an exemption to illegal immigrants to be able to purchase firearms. You know, we're never going to be able to turn this nation around and fix what is wrong with it as long as these kind of lies continue. Here's another one. Executive Order 9066 authorized Japanese detention during World War II. Now, that's what Executive Order 9066, that's what that order is. And, it was authorized to address Japanese detention during World War II. But they have switched that to say that it offers gift cards to illegal immigrants floating all over the internet. And so people who have this hatred for, immigrants and for Joe Biden and the Democrats, they believe this garbage. Doesn't have to have one speck of truth in it. But if you don't search to find the truth, you won't ever get the truth. If you're satisfied with inculcating lies into your life, then it's easy to do that. You don't need to search for the truth because there's a lie around every corner. Truth and lie can't hang out together. When you turn on the lights and there's darkness, darkness has to leave. The light will displace the darkness. Same thing with truth and a lie. When the truth comes out, then the lie or the liar has to disappear. And so all throughout these sites that people are taking in and drinking in, what they are getting is what they are believing. And so it leads them down a path of untruth, and it leads them to believe things that are not true. And so it doesn't seem to matter, right? Doesn't seem to matter whether it's the truth or not. Like it's not going to make any difference to those who continue to believe that Joe Biden has hurt the oil production of, the United States. Doesn't matter what I just said. People will believe what they want to believe who don't want the truth. Well, you know what? What you're going to get on this show is the truth. It's not Earl Ingram is the only person that has the truth. But Earl Ingram does search out the truth. And when I find the truth, I'm going to bring it to you. 844-967-2789. Up next, I'm going to talk a little bit about redefining American valor. It's time. 844-967-2789. Up next, news, weather, and sports. All right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. Redefining American valor. Senator Bernie Sanders' vision for a new foreign policy paradigm. Now, I've kind of lived through, the Cold War period. And as we came out of World War II, certainly, my parents lived through that. Uh, so we came out of World War II, wound up in Philippines and in Korea and, you know, in Vietnam and on and on and on. And so America's foreign policy has been, you know, something that, many of us have thought for a long, long time. Why are we all over the world? Why do we have more military installation bases than the rest of the world combined? You should ask yourself that question. Again, we only make up 4% of the global population. What are we doing with military installation bases all over the world? If you were another nation and you watch one of the smallest nations on the planet, and yet we have more military installation bases all over the world, you should ask the question, why? Well, Bernie Sanders is a man who has the courage. Can you imagine what it would be like to have a President Bernie Sanders, who's able to make some of his ideas into a reality? We would have a different United States. We'd have a different world. We wouldn't be having to spend the money that we spend on the military that you and I don't care anything about, that you and I just accept the fact that this is what we must do. Well, Bernie Sanders is basically saying that's enough. Redefining American valor, Bernie Sanders' vision for a new foreign policy, paradigm. At the heart of Sanders' critique is the notion that American foreign policy has been marred by a series of misguided interventions and conflicts. Who else has the courage to say that? Not many. It's when you're an independent, you have some freedoms to say these kind of things. He's 100% accurate. Senator Bernie Sanders ignited a dialogue on the future of American foreign policy, advocating for a seismic shift from traditional postures of greed, materialism, and hypocrisy. This is a United States senator who is saying this about our country. This is not somebody overseas. This is a United States senator who has talked about us and what we are doing as a nation. And he used the verbiage greed, materialism, and hypocrisy to a framework grounded in solidarity, diplomacy, and human rights. This call to action, articulated in a comprehensive piece in Foreign Affairs, challenges the United States to introspect and recalibrate its approach on the global stage, emphasizing a humanitarian and multilateral ethos at its core. 844-967-2789. Now, Calvin, you're a young man. This is your future. This is your generation's future we're talking about. Now, we can either continue to go down the path of my generation and continue to build weapons of mass destruction and nuclear weapons and talk about blowing the earth up and killing people. Or we can take the approach that Bernie Sanders is talking about. The foreign policy decisions of both major parties are frequently guided not by respect for human rights, but militarism, groupthink, and the greed and power of corporate interests. it is long past time to fundamentally reorient American foreign policy. He's 100% correct. And so we can fix the other aspects of what's wrong with our nation if we begin there. But it's almost as if the American people are afraid to have the discussion. And I don't know why. Why are we afraid to have that discussion? I personally would prefer that the money, my tax dollars, be spent somewhere else other than continuing to build the biggest warships, the biggest planes, the biggest killing machines. What about you? 844-967-2789. Now, Bernie Sanders clearly is going to be talked about as a kook. Well, he's a madman. Oh, he's not the madman. Let me ask you, Calvin, if you could pick a trajectory for the future of our nation and your generation, which one would you pick?
Well, in my ideal world, I would want the United States to be a leader in the world, but how we always learned in school, how do you lead? You lead by example. So we should start by being an example of democracy, an example of taking care of our citizens, an example of being what the United States was built on, and then worry about making sure that the world can see that and maybe we can spread that, but I don't think that should be through militaristic ways.
No, man. I just talked about this on yesterday, man. We've got troops on the ground in Taiwan. We've got troops on the ground all over the world. For what? We can't afford that anymore. The people are hurting. 844-967-2789. I don't have to, you don't have to be in the amen corner with me. You don't have to say, hey, I agree with you 100%. Nobody should agree with anybody 100% on everything. But the fact that we won't even have the conversation is why we can't fix any of these things. Now, if I was talking about something like, if I was talking about the March Madness, phone lines would be lit up. And my bracket. Come on, man. That's nothing. That's entertainment. What Bernie Sanders is talking about is a seismic shift in the future of this nation and the world. And that starts inside of the United States of America. If we were able to make that kind of change, the rest of the world would follow. Calvin, as you talked about, the United States leads. It leads in so many different areas. We need to lead there. Okay? I get it. This kind of conversation that I'm talking about, but you don't hear it on radio. How often do you hear this on radio? You don't hear it. Because people are afraid to have the discussion. Now, I could talk about fluff. Like I said, I could talk about the Bachelor or the Bachelorette or some of those other things. But no, man. I mean, let's talk about what's sensical. And what's sensical is, when are we going to have the discussion? Or how many more generations have to follow down the same path? How many more people have to die in unnecessary wars for us to say we're in charge? We're in charge of what? Well, we're in charge of the world. We're America. Oh, okay. Who anointed us that? That's the point Bernie Sanders is making. We followed that way of thinking for far too long. And all it's gotten us is a position where the American people are unhappy. because the American people, far too many of us aren't sharing in the wealth of the nation. Am I condemning the nation? No. Is Bernie Sanders condemning the nation? No. Bernie Sanders is having a conversation and a dialogue that is long overdue. And the fact that he has the courage to say it, it would just be nice if if Democrats jumped on the bandwagon. You know, I know they've got certainly, plans, the military, lasers up in space, and all these other things that we have planned, lasers on the warships, you know, spending more and more money on destruction of human beings. No, man, I'm not for that. I'm for Bernie Sanders. I'm from a man who understands and believes that the future of the earth should be concerned about the inhabitants of it and not about the money and not about the wealth and not about the destruction of human beings. Kudos to Bernie Sanders and the fact that he has the courage to even say that, because most of us don't have it. 844-967-2789. At the heart of Sanders' critique is the notion that American foreign policy has been marred by a series of misguided interventions and conflicts, from the Cold War's era destructive wars to the contemporary global war on terror. He specifically highlights the Vietnam War, where millions of Vietnamese and tens of thousands of American troops lost their lives, and a series of U.S.-backed coups across the globe that often installed authoritarian regimes, exacerbating corruption, violence, and poverty. You keep talking about the fact that those people are at the border. And if you really know the truth, you know why those people are at the border. You know it's because we've put puppet regimes in Central America. The United States, we've done that. We've upended their societies. Well, not you and I directly, but people in our names have done those things. It doesn't make me the smartest person in the world. I'm far from it. But maybe they made a mistake when they taught me how to read, because this is not Earl's words. These are words from people who can change the future of our nation and the future of the world. And I pray for the future of this generation that people listen more to Bernie Sanders and less to others who want to continue to perpetrate what is going on. 844-967-2789 is the number. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show.
but you can't keep running away from love. Cause the first one let you down. No, no, no. And though others try to satisfy you, baby, with me true love can still be found. Love can still be found. The second time around. Ooh, the second time is so much better than.
All right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. Now, I want to talk about self-esteem. And I see so many people whose self-esteem has been destroyed. And you know, that can happen at a very young, tender age. And you see people whose lives, unless there's an intervention somewhere along the road, they'll go through their entire lives thinking not much of themselves. We really live in a society that is so judgmental, and so it's so quick to talk about people being failures. And you know, and so what do we measure success and failure by? We live in a society that measures success by what you have and failure by what you don't have. So, I got a new car. I bought the new electric car. It, cost me $95,000, and so I'm driving around in the new electric car. Okay. So you're driving around in the new electric car. Fine. That's great. But okay. Um, let's do this. I didn't see you guys on the line, so I'm sorry, but let's go to the phone lines. And Mike from Kenosha. Good morning to you, Mike. What do you say, sir?
Good morning, Earl. Appreciate you taking my call as always. I wanted to jump in on militarism in our military economic footprint, if you will.
Yes, sir.
We have now more private security companies than public. We have, I think there's somewhere around 900 or 1,000 private security firms, which in itself is dangerous because you have all these they're like the Pinkertons around 1900, where it was just a police force for hire, for God's sakes. And then when you couple a couple of important things with history, George H.W. Bush, after he left office, he became chairman of the Carlyle Group.
Right.
In the Carlyle Group, for most of us who may not remember, it's a investment group that invests in nothing but military-based corporations. Now, this was at a time when, during the 90s, when we were being pitched a peace dividend, if you recall. The Cold War had just thawed out. We have suddenly, military bases all across the place. We have, this vast footprint that seemed somewhat obsolete and out of the norms for the day, considering we were in a peace dividend era. So the one thing that we must remember for any business, and that is you must have tomorrow's customer in mind. You have to pump up the marketplace and prepare for your next generation of business, or your business is at significant risk. That, in my mind, Earl, is our biggest albatross around their neck.
So when your business is war, right? You've got to make sure you have that.
Right. And with that comes then all of the necessary evils that come along with it, whether it be media hype, divide and conquer rhetoric, half-truths of the media, which without truth to power-based media, these corporate groups are going to dominate the news cycles. They're going to dominate the headlines because they want to inflict fear and mistrust. If they had a true fiduciary responsibility to we the people to do our job as the fourth estate purely and clearly refers to in the Constitution, we the people wouldn't be swimming in all these alligators and crocodiles of misinformation that end up doing nothing but distracting us and frustrating us, so we turn a blind eye to this.
Hey, Mike, man, thank you very much for the call as always. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Susan from Kenosha. Good morning to you, Susan. You say what?
Good morning. I thought I was the only one who was listening to Bernie Sanders on YouTube. Bernie is a very, very intelligent man, and he has always spoke the truth. And I think that people have to understand that he's not doing this for any kudos or money or anything like that. He's doing it to help save the nation. And people have to actually put everything in perspective. And I don't want to go to war. I think the next war that they should have all these billionaires line up on the front line. And then I'll send the young kids after your death. Because this is how I feel. This is just a warmongering nation where everything is involving sending troops over and making the biggest armament that we could possibly make. And for what end? When they finally drop the atomic bombs, there won't be anything left. So I don't know what you're talking about. So we have to put things in perspective.
Hey,
and the most important thing are our children and our future.
Hey, Susan, thank you very much. Well said. The fact of the matter is, we're preparing for the next war. I was reading something the other day, and it was talking about us preparing for the war with China. You know, when you make those kinds of statements, you know, unilaterally, you're publicly saying we're preparing for a war with China. What does that say? If I'm China. All right, 844-967-2789. Up next in the pharmacy with Dr. Umar of Welltopia Pharmacy. 844-967-2789. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show.
Hey, Dr. Omar, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you well. Just a second. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
Hey, Dr. Omar, how you doing, sir?
Can you hear me now?
You got a little quiet, but we can still hear you.
Can you hear me, Dr. Omar? Dr. Omar. So I don't think he can hear me.
He should be able to. I think he's just adjusting his thing.
How you doing, Dr. Omar?
I'm doing great. Harold, how are you doing today?
All right. You need to let it down a little bit so we can see your face.
All right. Can you see me now?
I can't see you from the nose up.
All right. Let me do it this.
There you go. You were there for a second.
Just do this 1 second. How about now?
I still can't see you from the nose up.
Yeah, if you just tilt your camera up a little bit. Yeah,
there you
perfect.
go. There you go. There you go.
All right.
Now
Let
you're a
me
little
try
bit
to
too low.
fix this. All right.
There you go. There you go. So I got a couple things, and then you can add whatever it is you want to talk about. I clearly want to talk about a trust in generic medicines and why supplements are so important.
All right, sure.
And you got something in that you want to discuss?
I want to talk about the viruses and colds that are like the kind of the sickness that's around us. Maybe we
Yeah,
can talk about some home remedies for that.
yeah. We can certainly talk about those things. Um, I had somebody um, who was telling me, "Can I have you talk more about supplements?"
Seem like a
And
plan.
yeah, and so why supplements are so important. And clearly they're listening. They listen all the time. But
Right.
so I haven't had. So the viruses are still going around.
Yeah, people are falling sick with cold and flu symptoms, with GI like problems with like throwing up or having diarrhea, and also having problem with the sinuses. So there is some form of virus that's out there. It's maybe COVID, it may be something else, but because of the also change in the weather, we are seeing these challenges now. So I think we need to talk about like the what to have at home in order to be ready, because you don't have time to go to the doctor and get something, and most of the time they're not going to give you an antibiotic if they don't know that you have a strep throat.
Well, the other side of that, Doctor Omar, is I had my flu shot, I had a COVID shot,
Yeah,
so I have not contracted any of those things. Maybe it's just I'm lucky, but maybe having the vaccines serve some purpose, right? I mean,
for
people think
sure,
well,
sure.
so we need to talk a little bit about the vaccines as well, because there's so many people who just don't want to take vaccines anymore.
That's right, and I have a good story for that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. Now they are saying. I'll tell you this. They are saying that seniors should have another COVID shot, where the government says we are entitled to a second COVID shot. I had my first one this year, and but I haven't. That second one, I'm kind of hemming and hawing on.
Yeah,
Uh, I want you to explain why. You know, these people have led many to believe that vaccinations are not necessary. So much stuff we certainly can touch base on.
great.
Uh, and so it's not when people say vaccines aren't necessary and they're just for all these different things, they really don't know what they're talking about, do they?
Yeah, it's just we have to follow the science, and vaccines are necessary, and they are protecting a lot of people who have challenges with the immune system, seniors who cannot afford to stay home sick for days and days, and God knows what else is going to happen. So, and there is data that would support vaccines. So, yeah, they are necessary, and we just need to follow the science and get the vaccine.
Dr. Omar, there are people who, I mean, measles is coming back, for heaven's sakes. That
Yeah, measles coming back. I believe it.
tuberculosis,
Yeah,
many of the other, the bubonic plague is coming back. I mean, these are things that were defeated, right?
they were defeated and they are coming back because less people are getting the vaccines. And just the basis of not taking the vaccine gets to be very, come on, what is this, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Problematic and long term. I venture to say, you're the doctor, but I would venture to say we're playing with fire.
We are playing
Um,
with fire. I agree, and I like this term. We are playing with fire to advise large group of people to not take the vaccines because there are one of the very successful vaccines is the Shingrix vaccine that can protect you from Shingrix up to 97%. So that is huge. People with with shingles, they have pains all over the body, and
so
these pains,
so
you know.
so I've had shingles. I've had shingles, and I've taken the vaccines afterwards. Um,
Yeah. So you had shingles and you took the vaccine after you got the shingles, right?
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years and the slow parade of fears without crying. Now I want to understand. I have done all that I could to see the evil and the good without hiding. You must help me if you can. Doctor, my eyes, tell me what is wrong. Was I unwise to leave them open for so long?
All right. Welcome to Omar the pharmacist in the pharmacy with Omar the pharmacist, Dr. Omar the pharmacist. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. You can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. Calvin, I like that. Dr. Omar, you like that?
It's a very nice song. I love it.
Well, that's going to be it then. We'll certainly brand it on the show. But we got so much to talk about, Dr. Omar. If you haven't heard us every Thursday, Dr. Omar, the pharmacist, he is the owner of Welltopia Pharmacy in Mequon, Thingsville, and he is on to give us important information on medication and you and I and our bodies and all of those things. We got a plethora of things to talk about this morning. Dr. Omar, I want to start with you talked about the fact that there's viruses going around right now, and they're all over the place. Let's talk a little bit about them.
Yeah, we are noticing that there is like some symptoms of upper respiratory tract infection, kind of, and it's not strep throat. So there is like problems with the inflammation in the lungs that cause people to have clogged nose, and then there is like coughing, and they just don't have an antibiotic to take at home, and they have to stay home for like few days fever, and also it can go with GI problems like throwing up and the emesis. So I think every household is suffering from this problem. Kids are staying home. We have like a couple of people that are sick in my pharmacy. So seniors, we see like a lot of people coming asking for cold and flu over-the-counter medications. So I think this has to be addressed. This has to be addressed because weather is changing, and something is happening, and we have to all be careful.
You know, you talked about coming to get over the counter medications. I remember reading last year that they were finding out that many of the over the counter medications didn't have the ingredient that was critically important to addressing the issues that people had. And so how do you know? And what's the impact of over the counter meds? When people have sinus problems, they run to the pharmacy, and when I was a young man, there was 3 or 4 different things you could take, but now there's 5 million in an aisle of these different antihistamines and other things.
Yeah.
So how do you know? Do they work?
They actually work. You just have to be careful not to take too much of those, like NyQuil and
Right.
acetaminophen and ibuprofen. So I like to have them at home, but I like the consistent thing. As soon as I start to feel sick, to take doses of vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, quercetin, NAC, N-acetylcysteine. These are groups of supplements that I think should be in every household to be basis for supporting the immune system to fight these kind of whatever virus or infection that I'm not going to take an antibiotic for because I don't have time to go to the doctor, or the doctor is not going to write me an antibiotic for. So instead of just focusing on the NyQuil and the antihistamines and the acetaminophen and the ibuprofen every 6 hours, I want to focus on a basis of good supplements, chicken soup, taking anise tea to help support my not coughing too much. So there is herbal remedies, just herbal remedies that can help me get better faster. And I can't tell you how many business trips I saved by those herbal remedies. They just have to be the right stuff.
You know, so chicken soup really works.
It works very well. Soothes the upper respiratory tract. It decreases the coughing, and it just yeah, it works for sure.
So, so let me ask you, vaccinations.
Yes,
Um, you know, people more and more are not trusting vaccinations, and they're turning away from vaccinations. You go on the websites, and there are people who tell you you're a fool if you take vaccinations. Nobody checks to see if the person who's putting that information out, Dr. Umar, has a PhD in medicine.
yeah, it just needs to be different and weird information, and everyone is going to share it, and they're not going to look at the source of the information. And we usually will tell people follow the science. If you see side effects happening from a certain vaccine, follow the science and see what is published out there. The challenge is like there's lots of politics around COVID vaccines, and that have done a lot of problems to also other vaccines that people should be taking. I want to tell you that before the Shingrix vaccine for shingles, we used to have a lot of patients coming in with shingles, and we would create for them remedies to help, topical creams to help with pain, things to help with. I have nerve pain that has come to me since I had shingles 2 months ago or 2 years ago, and they are not like healing. Now I have much less patients coming in with active shingles because many seniors took the Shingrix vaccine that protects people up to 97% from shingles. So that's a vaccine that a lot of people took, and it has saved so many pains all across.
So, so you're talking to a guy who had shingles,
All right.
hadn't taken the vaccination,
Yeah.
and had shingles, and you can't begin to articulate the pain of
Yeah.
shingles.
Always.
And so once I had shingles, I was told that you can, once you have contracted it, it can come back even more with a vengeance and can even lead to blindness.
Yes.
And so I went ahead and had the shingle shots. And part of the reason was because shingles shots cost so much, they're so expensive. But finally, we were able to get Medicare to finally pay for the
Recovery.
shingle shots. I think
Yes.
that had something to do with it, Dr. Omar.
Yeah. Well, the it's expensive, and we finally have Medicare covering it. But I think anyone 50 years plus should get the vaccine and invest in it, even if it's not covered by the insurance. I was 35 when I got shingles, and it was brutal.
Oh, you had it. Okay.
I had it, and it was brutal, and I was saved by compounding because a formula was done for me that was like nothing else. I didn't take a single ibuprofen pill, but I just five days I had to religiously take it. But going back to the point, uh, you have to really find something that you need to take care of and invest in your health. If you cannot afford to have shingles, that would be like pain in the nerve that you just can't help. You have to take the vaccine of the Shingrix. Most people can take it. A lot of the insurances cover it. The challenge is like if you're going to pay for $100 over 2 to 6 months period, it's hard, and we hope that there would be more umbrella coverage for commercial insurance and other insurances to cover it, but at least Medicare is covering it. So it's a wake-up call to everyone listening to us. Ask about the Shingrix vaccine. Go take it because it's just most of us have the virus in our skin waiting to come out, and when it comes out, it doesn't go back. And if you got shingles before, and you are now fine, you have kind of it healed, the sores are healed, go and take the vaccine.
All right, let's go to Julie. Good morning to you, Julie. Thank you very much for the call. You say what?
Hi, good morning. So, calling about when you said, like, when you start to feel like you're getting a cold or run down or whatever, you have the list of vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc. I'm curious to know if you think the emergency packets are worth taking.
Yes, emergency packets are worth taking. I would like to divide the dose every 12 hours. Yeah, they have, I think there is the C vitamin high dose, and there is the zinc, and there is different combinations of it. So just to make it simple, try to find vitamin C, 500 milligram, 2 times a day, zinc at least 25 milligram a day, quercetin about 200 milligram a day, vitamin D 2500 units a day. We have a product called Wellmune that have those top supplements that supports the immune system during this critical time. And just dividing the dose, because some of those vitamins are water soluble, so they leave the body fast. But Emergency is a good brand. Yes.
And then would you recommend just doing that every day, or only when you're kind of feeling run down?
When you feel you're run down, take it for a few days. Just divide the dose about 2 or 3 times a day, but do it for 4 or 5 days straight, because the body takes some time to kind of recover. And also, because at that time, the immune system needs those doses of vitamin C and vitamin D and just keeps consuming them. So that's why we need at least 4 or 5 days a week, I would say, of taking those supplements.
Hey, Julie, thank you very much for the call. You all can join us at 844-967-2789 if you have a question or comment for Dr. Omar. We are in the pharmacy with the pharmacist, Dr. Umar, on the Earl Ingram Show. 844-967-2789 is the number. All right, welcome back to In the Pharmacy with Dr. Omar, the pharmacist, the owner of WellPoint Pharmacy in Mequon, Thingsville.
Well, Welltopia Pharmacy.
Welltopia. I'm sorry,
Yes,
Welltopia.
okay.
Let me ask you, Dr. Omar. People. I want to go back to the vaccinations, and right now, um, you know, um, the measles. I was reading something about the bubonic plague, tuberculosis. All of those things had basically been eradicated. When I was a kid, everybody had to have those vaccinations as children.
Yeah.
You didn't have a choice of the matter. You couldn't say when the child was born. I think there were 6 or 7 different vaccinations that we had to all have. That's not the case anymore. Why?
We have more choices, and when we have more choices, sometimes we don't do the choice that's going to save our lives. Um, Choices is good, but if we don't take the MMR vaccine, we don't give it to our children, then we are endangering the whole community. And that's what happened, that we found people that got measles, okay, and that's kind of a serious condition, and it eradicated, and then it came back. So we have to follow the science, Earl. We can't just follow anyone that come with news. You have to know who you get your medical data from. Social media and the viral informations that can come out that falsify what is necessary and important to protect the society. That's challenge.
Yes, sir. Let's go to Mary from Wauwatosa. Good morning to you, Mary. Thank you very much for the call. How are you doing?
Good morning, and thanks for this this session here. I understand that mushrooms are a rising star in the natural world in support of our health, and I'd just like to ask your opinion on these. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Mushrooms. You got to be
Mhm.
careful with those, right? I mean, you really do.
Yeah, so mushrooms, there is so many families of mushrooms, and we use them in the pharmacy. We use them to support the immune system. We use them to support the stamina. They just have to come from the right source. They contain macronutrients, which help to really support immune system in a definitive way. There is cordyceps, that is a very good mushroom to support the immune system. Uh, so they are emerging now again because of their benefits. So it's just like it's not a blank term that we can call everything mushroom that is going to get you high. No, they have been used for centuries in the pharmacy. So yes, I use them a lot for again the immune system support, to support stamina, for brain health. So there are kind of categories, and they are used as a professional supplement with certain doses that are clinical doses.
So let's talk about Dr. Omar. Let's talk about the difference between medication and supplements
Yeah.
because I'm learning from you. They work hand in hand, or supplements can supplements ever replace medication, or medication without supplements? What is how does that work?
What works is that medications originally come from a plant source, a molecule that many times come from a plant source, and then it gets to be modified, so we call it a medication. And then we start to standardize it and give it side effect profile. What I look at it as, if I need a medication, I take the medication because let's say I have high blood pressure. But if I can control my condition with supplements, with approval from the doctor, that's the route that I believe is going to be helpful. If I tell you supplements come from, like, if they are micronutrients that are either in your body already and you take higher doses of them, like magnesium, like calcium, or they come from
Iron.
iron, or they come from plant source, and they have less side effect profile. But as we take them as capsules and pills, I like to look at them as part of my medicinal regimen, and I want to categorize them and respect them same way I respect my medications. If I'm taking enough supplements and good supplements to support that, I would take less medications, of course, with help with the doctor. That would be a good thing. It's just the food quality is not as it is, so I'm getting more micronutrients that I should be getting from the food, but I am not getting them now. So I'm getting more calcium, more magnesium, more vitamin C, more vitamin D, quercetin. These are found in the foods, okay? If this is helping me to take less medications that can have side effects on the body, on the mind, on the gut, then we have a perfect combination. So I don't want to hate or love something more than it should. I just need to see what I need and I follow through.
So, so the physiology of the body. Well, here's a couple questions. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Omar. I have allergies that bother me mostly in spring and August. Ragweed, the other medications all make me drowsy. Are there
Yeah.
any natural treatments?
Yes, there is a very good supplement called Hista La Vista that we have at Wiltopia because it contains quercetin, N-acetylcysteine, bromelain, and these are natural products that are not going to cause you drowsy. They are going to be natural antihistaminic effect. They don't cause dryness. They support the immune system. You can take them longer term without having the problems of the antihistaminics in the market. And these are natural ingredients that we've been using for tens of years. We just have them in higher concentration inside these supplements like Hista La Vista. That's just
All
an
right.
example, Earl. One
Yeah,
example.
so 844-967-2789 is the number. It's Thursday. That means Thursdays with my guest, Dr. Omar. You're in the pharmacy with Dr. Omar, the pharmacist. 844-967-2789 is the number. You have any questions or comments, feel free.
Need you close enough to guide me. I've been hoping you would find me. You're the biggest part of me. Well, make a wish, baby. Well, and now we'll make it come
That's
true.
cool.
Make a list, baby, of the things I'll do for you.
All right. Welcome back to In the Pharmacy with Dr. Omar, the pharmacist. He's here every Thursday from 9 to 10 a.m. You can join us. He is the proprietor of Welltopia Pharmacy in Mequon and Thingsville. You have any questions or comments? 844-967-2789. Dr. Omar, I think there was something you wanted to say before we went to break.
We were talking about the sinus infections, not
Yes.
sinus infections, but we say like during the seasonal changes when we have to use antihistaminics for long period of time. And the problem is that using them, they're over the counter, so we can get them. We can get the Zyrtec, we can get the fixofenadine, we can get the loratadine, and the older Asians are the Benadryl. Using them long term can have like some side effects, like it can cause dryness of body fluids. It can cause, if you use Benadryl every single night to sleep, you're going to have dementia when you grow up. So there are some things that we have to address.
Whoa. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Repeat that.
Research studies that showed that seniors that are taking Benadryl to sleep, diphenhydramine 25 to 50 milligram every night, getting dementia, and it was linked to the
Wow.
habit of taking, because it makes you sleepy. This the first generation of antihistaminics, they make you sleepy. So I'm just recommending to find other ways. One of them is, first of all, we need to know if you have a sinus infection that's not treated. Second, if you just get those hives because of allergies during allergy season, then there are different formulas that you can use naturally, and they're very effective, that can control the allergy that you might have. So I want you to explore the options. And one of the products I mentioned is called Hista La Vista. Another product is called Histaquel. And this is kind of natural things that support the immune system, because it's just many times it's flaring up of the immune system, increasing inflammation in the body, and that need to be addressed. So you just have to be careful.
Let me ask you. So when the pharmaceutical companies create medications, and they have a patent on the medications, and so there is a period of time that that nobody can copy that medication, and once that period of time is exhausted, then people can come in and create what they call genetic medications.
Generic medications, yes.
So what's the difference between the genetic and the original medication? And so is it the same thing? Does it do and serve the same purpose? It doesn't make sense to me. The regular medication is going to cost more than the generic.
Yeah.
So does it do the same thing? Does it the same
Yes.
purpose?
Very good question. So according to the FDA, in order, like let's say medication is in the market for 7 years, one company can make it. The 7 years are exhausted. Now any company can make the medication. The company should use the same molecule exactly as the original drug. Even if the original drug was costing $100 a pill, now it's costing $1 a pill or maybe less. They have to use the same molecule, and they have to adhere with the FDA guidelines. FDA is not going to visit each facility, but that's why the pharmacy should get it from approved wholesalers that kind of police or should police those manufacturers, drug manufacturers. What I want to tell you is, like, if you're taking a brand name and now you take the generic form, check your levels, check with your doctor. If everything looks the same, then this is a good generic. If you have problems, maybe move to another generic. If there is a problem and you have to take the brand name, that's, I think, will be the last resort, because there's going to be hoops to go over if you have to take a brand name of a generic drug, because pharmacies are not going to want to give you the brand name, because it's just very expensive. Insurances doesn't like to pay for it. And if it's because you're allergic to anything in the generic form, because the problem, Earl, is that the generic drug, they can use different color or different dye or binder inside the pill or the capsule. But for most people, they should be fine. They can take the generic medication. It's just this small portion of people are going to have a problem if they change the medication that they take. So I don't want people to freak out much from the generic medications. Yes, there is some problems that happen from certain generic manufacturers. And as soon as something happens, the FDA wakes up and they go shut them down or have them stop production until they fix what they have. But the reality of how the insurance work with the pharmaceutical drug industry, it is regulated, and it is one of the main area of work of the FDA. Just the problem is, like, those generic medications come from different countries and they all come to the United States, but still we kind of have to trust the system for the medications that we take every day. And if you take a medication, it's not helping you, and you nail it down that this generic medication is not the one, sometimes it's you're going to find another generic that works for you, and you just stick with it.
Dr. Umar, you use the the word should.
Yeah,
They should follow.
yeah,
And so and I know you're a very brilliant guy, and I listen to the things that you say, but you did say should
yeah.
follow.
They should
Uh,
follow.
Right. Okay. So but we don't know whether they did or didn't. And so we as the citizens, we can't discern whether or not the medications, I can speak for myself.
Yes.
When I have always accepted, and when the doctor offered me the medications, I took the medications, assuming that the doctor was not going to give me something that was not going to work. And so, and so I don't know about other people, but I can talk about me. So I would take the medications that the doctor prescribed, believing, didn't not knowing about the politrick part of it behind the scenes. Um, and but then I started realizing as I started reading things that there are these things behind the scenes. The FDA is a small entity that can't go all over the world, Dr. Omar, checking on these things. So when we have conversations and dialogues with our doctors, we don't have that knowledge. It's why this segment of this show is so critically important. Because where else are you going to get that information? I'll tell you, I haven't ever gotten that information from anybody else in all the time I've been taking medications other than you about what to look for and what not to look for. So the average person is not getting that either.
The when we the board of pharmacy is asking us to always counsel patients and counsel the public about the uses, side effects, different questions that they might have. That's why when you take your medication, you see the pharmacist telling you, do you have any question about your medication? It is just the reality of the busy life that we have. Thousands of prescriptions that a pharmacist
Right.
has to finish in one day. Just there's not enough data. But I just want to tell you, like, there are certain parts in the system we have to kind of have a basic trust with, so we can live. But if you ask, or am I going to suspect everything that I take? Well, you can suspect everything that you take, and that's why you just kind of try to deal with the entity, the doctor, the pharmacy, the place that you trust, because they're going to want to benefit you when you trust them, because there is this kind of moral and professional conduct that we have to believe still exists in the society. So we just have to believe in goodness, Earl, and we're gonna
Well,
go from there.
you know, Dr. Omar, I believe in goodness, but I also know there are corporations whose bottom line is profit. And fortunately, they are in the medical supply chain, the food supply chain, and all of those different things. And so, when we talk about generics, because the insurance companies don't want to pay for the
Brand name.
brand name.
Yeah.
I do. I understand. I get all of those things, Dr. Omar. But just to get the average person to even, we don't think about those things. We go and the doctor prescribes a prescription. We go in, we get the prescription, we take the prescription. We assume that it's working.
Yeah.
And we don't have any measuring stick to discern whether it's not working. We just figure things are getting better. And so what signs, and I know this is a broad question, but what signs should we be looking for if we've gotten this new prescription, or we're taking a new supplement? What times and signs should we see that we want to change, that these things are working?
Good question. Like, let's talk about like examples. Like, if I'm taking a medication to control my blood pressure and my blood pressure was high at the doctor's office, well, I have to buy like a blood pressure measuring machine and check it at home at least 2, 3 times a week and see if the medication is bringing my blood pressure down. So let's be proactive. If I'm taking a medication to lower my blood sugar because it was high when I went to the doctor's office, the doctor can write for me a prescription for a blood blood sugar monitoring machine, or like I can wear a CGM, a device on my arm, and I can see that my blood sugar is going down. At the same time, I don't have side effect of, let's say, GI problems, or I no diarrhea. So I see the results. It gets to be a little bit more challenging with medications for high cholesterol, because you cannot see the signs of, oh, my cholesterol is fine. How is your cholesterol? My cholesterol, I feel it's good. No, you don't feel it's good until you test it and measure it, right? So it's kind of according to case by case basis. For the thyroid medication like levothyroxine and the armor thyroid and other forms that can be compounded, the symptoms, you're feeling better, you have better energy, you feel good about yourself, you can sleep. So as these symptoms and problems are getting better, the medication is working. It's helping me. I can now, next time when I pick it up, I'm gonna ask one more question about it. Oh, it stopped helping me. What's going on? So it gets to be like a collaborative practice between the patient, the doctor, the pharmacy. But if we're not asking those questions, we will never know. The problem happens, Earl, from assuming that the system is perfect. The system is not perfect. That's just
All right.
realistic.
Guys, hang on the phone lines, 844-967-2789. You're in the pharmacy with Dr. Umar, the proprietor of Welltopia. 844-967-2789 is our number.
You're the biggest part of me. You're the life that breathes in me. You're the biggest part of me. You changed my life. You made it right. I'll be a servant to you for the rest of my life. You're the biggest part.
All right. Welcome back to what I can't believe is the last few minutes of In the Pharmacy with Dr. Omar, the pharmacist of, Worldtopia Pharmacy, Mequon, Thiensville. Let's go to the phone lines and Steve from La Crosse. Good morning to you, Steve. How you doing, sir? You have a question or comment?
Yeah, I'm doing real good, and I appreciate you guys being on. My question is, I've been listening about the Shingrix vaccine, and I think I want to get some good supplements. And I have supplements in my closet at home, but I don't know if they're old or good, or how do you tell which the good ones are?
That's a great question, and Dr. Omar is really great at that. Dr. Omar, you've heard the question?
Yes, so I understand that you have some supplements in your medication cabinet and you want to go through them to see if they are good or bad. So that's a good question because most of us have this problem and this challenge. You have an expiration date on the bottle. Usually the supplements are good beyond that date, but the question gets to be, do I need to use all of this stuff that I have in my medication cabinet? And I would tell you, like, you are in La Crosse, like I do virtual consults, but in general, you can go to to your local pharmacy and just take some of those supplements every time that you go to the pharmacy and ask the pharmacist if they can help you. And if they don't know, they will research and look at the data that you provide. But the problem, if we are hoarding more supplements over the years and we just kind of get to the point of what to do with this, I want to tell you, Earl, that one time I had a lady come to my pharmacy with 200 bottles of vitamins. And she asked me, I want to know, what should I keep? What should I lose? And it was like, oh, it was really interesting. So it's kind of, we don't want to be overwhelmed because every practitioner that we can go can load us with supplements. So always ask the integrative practitioners that you might be working with, will always ask Amazon and Google to just take it easy on us and just take it one step at a time. Start one or two new supplements at a time, learn about them, and write on the bottles what this is for. All right. So I try to do this with supplements that I give to people. I try to tell them like what it is for and how to take it, for how long to see results. So I want it to be fun. I don't want it to be something I have to take for the rest of my life without knowing what am I taking. I want it to be fun. I want it to be interesting.
So Stephen, thank you very much for the call. So Calvin, we're going through and there's a lot of knowledge and information that is disseminated every time Dr. Omar is on the line and so how can people get to hear this again?
So they can go to civicmedia.us/shows. You'll find the Earl Ingram Show, and then you'll find this podcast. You can also search for Dr. Omar on the Civic Media website. The podcasts are also uploaded to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
So Dr. Omar, I'm taking now this supplement COQ, I don't
CoQ10.
know.
CoQ10 400 milligrams.
Yeah. So I'm taking that.
Yes.
And I'm not imagining this, I don't think, but it's been, several days. But, I just, it's a supplement. You told me right away, well, you don't have this in your body.
Yes.
But who knows what that is? We're not scientists. We're just average, everyday people. We think we've got blood and those kind of things in our bodies, but repeat that.
Yes. So it's an antioxidant. It's a very strong antioxidant, the CoQ10. Can neutralize free radicals and give help even to the damaged cells in the body. And we recommended it because you're taking atorvastatin high dose, and atorvastatin stops the formation of the CoQ10 inside the body. So this CoQ10 goes into the Krebs cycle, the formation of the energy inside the cells, the power hubs inside the cells. These information, they can be complex, and the CoQ10 is just like it's you're going to forget what I told you, like maybe tomorrow or after tomorrow, because complex way of, even us, we forget. And that's why we have to remind ourselves that every patient, every person is a story, is a health story. So we have to take what is needed for our bodies. The thing is, like, when I gave it to you, I told you, and I wrote on the bottle how to take it, and I told you you have to
Right.
take it at least 2 weeks to find results, but you have to continue as long as you take atorvastatin. So you asked the question, Earl. You came to me, and we met, and we talked about it, and now you're taking it every day. So this is great. You're doing
So
something great for your health.
so let me tell you. So then I went and looked up CoQ10 or whatever that's called, and saw the different manufacturers of it.
Yes.
And I saw some prices as low as $10
Yes.
on up to so we can't just go by the title of the supplements, right? Because
Yeah.
manufacturers make all kind of different supplements.
Yes, there is the over-the-counter industry. There is the supplements industry, which is the wild, wild west in terms of the companies that can make anything and put it in a bottle. And then we try to work with professional supplements industry. These are companies that voluntarily they would make their own studies, and they would provide data to validate that what's written in the bottle is inside the bottle. And also some forms of CoQ10 are not absorbed very well by the body, so you take them as just you take cup of water, you're not taking anything. So you have to take it from the correct source. And I can show you, like, some of the supplements that you can take. One bottle that would cost X, another bottle can cost 3 4 X. The cheaper bottle can do the effect. It's not just the price, it's about who is making the product. Okay, so the authentication of the manufacturer, and that's why you need help. Like, you cannot just navigate this on your own.
So, Dr. Omar, we have to leave it there. Thank you as always. This is a
Thank you.
great bit of information. Thank everybody who made the show go. Dr. Omar, I'll see you in a week.
Thank you.
Up next, and Calvin, thank you. Up next, Jane McNair and Greg Bach, McNair on air. See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.